Among those killed were Dr. Myles Monroe, his wife Ruth, Pastor Richard Pinder, pilots Stanley Thurston and Farkan Cooper, youth pastors LeVard and Riddell Parks, who were expecting their second child, and their son Johannan. Riddell's devastated family members say they were shocked to learn of her passing. Fighting back tears, her twin sister Renelle told NB12 she was a woman committed to her God, her family, and her church.
And you're close to your sister. But Riddell was always my best friend. She knew everything. And there was nothing that I wouldn't tell her, and it was the same for her. It's so funny, I would see twins, but I'd be like, they ain't as close as me and you. And she was, if anybody knew Riddell, they knew that we were different. As much as we were alike, we were different. And they loved her for her. She was always one who wanted to express her individuality. She wanted people to see her for who she was. Hence the locks, the writing, all of that is her image and her gifting. And we loved her for who she was.
Renelle says she lost more than her best friend on Sunday. She also lost her brother.
LeVard is he was like my brother. We would argue, we would make up. He used to pick up my kids from school, and just last week I called him and I said, "You picking up the kids today?" He said, "If you call me one more time about this," he said, "and I tell you I'm picking them up unless I tell you I'm not." But that's how we were. We were so close. We loved each other, and he knew that he could have called on me for anything. And it was the same way. I would not have wanted another brother-in-law. They were perfect for each other. And just how they lived is how they died together, because they were always together. They were inseparable.
Renelle says there is little that can be done to fill the void left by her death, but they have found some comfort in the contact they've had with LeVard's family. His father, Livingston Parks, says he last saw his son on Sunday, less than an hour before he boarded the flight to Grand Bahama.
He came to see me on Sunday, just before he left. He called me Sunday morning to say that he was going on the flight with Brother Myles. He wasn't supposed to go, but I guess God had it so that he just had to be on the flight. And he told me there were some things that he wanted me to do for him. But little did I know that was going to be the last time that I had an opportunity to talk with him.
He revealed that his son faced death once before after having a gun pulled on him as a teenager.
And he shared a story with us several years ago at a men's meeting that he was out playing even though I told him not to go. And somebody in the group came with a gun, put it to his head, and shot twice, and the gun never went off. And I said to him after that, the Lord was not ready for you yet. He has some more work for you to do.
The elder Parks says as his son got older, he married the love of his life and became closer to God. While 2 generations of his family's lives were cut short, Parks says he is somewhat comforted that his son and his family died doing the work of God.
His life has been one of working for the Lord. And that is what comforts me today, to know that he is absent from this body, but he's present with the Lord. His wife was a pastor as well, along with him at BFM. And little Jojo was always so jubilant and running about. I spoke to some of the folk just Sunday night at BFM, and they were saying that our little Jojo was running around the church on Sunday. Their lives were just awesome, working for the Lord. And so he died on the battlefield working for the Lord. And this is a comfort to me to know that he is no longer here with us, but he's in the arms of Jesus.
It's a sentiment shared by LeVard's older brother, LaShawn Parks, who shares a birthday with LeVard and their mother.
LeVard died, like Daddy said, doing what he wanted to do, doing what he loved. He was very motivated. I came to visit Daddy on Sunday afternoon around 2. And around 2:30, and LeVard, his wife and the baby were outside, and he dashed in, gave some information to Daddy, some things he wanted him to take care of for him. Threw his house keys in his lap and said, Daddy, look after the house for me. And I said something to him, and he said, Sean, oh, I can't deal with that right now. I gotta go. And he dashed out. And that was characteristic of LeVard. That's him. Always on the move, always on the go, motivated. I wish it were a dream that wasn't reality. But as time goes on, the reality sets in that, it's not a dream. It is reality. And it's hard to know that, my brother is actually one of my youngest brothers, that his life has been, and on this side has been ended at 34 years old. But like the Bible says, the Lord give it and the Lord take it away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. If there was something that I could have done, if the Lord had shown me something to tell him, LeVard, do not get on that flight, I would have. We got nothing. The Lord allowed it to happen, and what could I say?
It's a harsh reality also being faced by the family of 34-year-old pilot Farkan Cooper, who also died in the crash. His mother, Apostle Flossie Cooper, says she woke up with a message from God the morning her son died.
I called his cell. I say, boy, answer this phone. And of course he didn't answer.
She added that the husband and father of 2 boys ages 1 and 3 died doing what he loved. Though Farkan worked as an assistant anesthesiologist, she says he also pursued his dream of becoming a pilot.
He loved to work with his hands, and I knew he had a special gift. I never wanted my son to fly, but that's what he wanted. And I always say to him, when you are leaving, don't tell Mommy. When you are back, tell me you're here. I said, because it hurts my heart. Okay? And so I was always trying to take him away from flying. But he came into anesthesiologist department along with myself about 12, 14 years ago. And he was an excellent anesthesiologist. Anything Farkan put his hand to do, he have done it well. He have done it with excellence. He loved people. And that was his whole, and he loved serving.
Farkan's father and sisters say he will be deeply missed.
I mean, spirit lingers, forever be in my heart. It's tough, but to the grace of God, we're making it, and he will forever be in our hearts.
And everybody loved him. My entire family loved him, his cousins, his friends at work, and he was just loved by everybody. And so, like I said, he exemplified what a big brother was and what a man was. And so we looked up to him and we admire him. And even in his death, we still admire him because he was courageous.
I don't see Farkan as his life being short. I just see it as a life being complete.
Amen.
Yes. He died at 34, but it was a completed life. A full circle. He did what he had to do.
The family say they are honored and humbled by the overwhelming outpouring of grief by thousands here in the Bahamas and around the world. Reporting for NB12, I'm Jasmine Brown.
I depend on the Lord to take me through situations like this.
Yes.
He's the only one who can do that.
Mm-hmm.
And he's taken me through.
Mm-hmm.
I've had many difficulties like that before, and he took me through.
Mm-hmm.
And he promised never to leave me, nor forsake me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only way I can make it. Because at my age, I look young, but I'm an old soldier.
Yeah, you do look young.
I know, but I'm an old soldier.
Yeah.
The old soldiers never die.
That's right.
They only fade away. I fade here.
Yeah.
Thank God. He's the one who can keep us going.
It was a somber occasion as family members, law enforcement and government officials gathered for the next leg of a tragic journey. A journey which began a week ago when a United States registered Learjet, owned by the late Dr. Myles Monroe, crashed on Grand Bahama, killing everyone on board. For two brothers who live on Grand Bahama, L. Kenny and Dr. Freeman Lockhart, the dreadful journey continued Monday morning, when officials at Rescue Mortuary, where the bodies of the late Dr. Myles Monroe, his wife Ruth Ann, Pastor Richard Pinder, and pilot Captain Stanley Thurston were prepared for their grand return back home to the nation's capital. They described the devastating scenario as surreal. The initial sting of death, they say, has left a void as they reflected on the life of their sister, Pastor Ruth Ann Monroe, the life partner of Dr. Myles Monroe for some 35 years.
It was a real shock. You know, I was on the road at the time when on Sunday afternoon. So needless to say, it was a real shock when you hear news like this. The first thing you want is confirmation.
Shocked and in disbelief when it was confirmed. It was very, very difficult. Ruth was, she was a very kind, very loving, very strong family person, caring. You know, you could ask her for anything, and if she could help, you could be assured that you will be helped.
Once the bodies draped in Bahamian colors were loaded in the various hearse, a massive police-led procession followed. From Coral Road, it was on to Settlers Way and Yeager's Funeral Home on Queens Highway, where they were united with fallen co-pilot Captain Frank Con Cooper. Media mogul, BFM official, and Dr. Myles Monroe protege Debbie Bartlett says, in death, Dr. Myles and those who perished have all unified this country's best.
As we came in the motorcade, my heart leapt for joy because Rescue is working with Yeager. There is no competition. There's completion. Freeport News is working with ZNS News. The PLP and the FNL are working with all enthusiasm. The government has been on top of its game with efficiency, with compassion, with precision, with honoring the lives of everyone that really, by destiny, chose Freeport to memorialize this event, this sacrifice of life, forever and ever.
As the bodies of Dr. Myles and Ruth Ann Monroe were lifted on board a Sky Bahamas aircraft, Bartlett called for the continued support and prayers for the children, two of whom have been left fatherless and motherless.
I want to say that on behalf of the family, Pastor Sheena, Myles Jr., he is no longer Chiro, he is Myles Jr. If you hear them speak, you'll say, hey, hey, hey. If you hear Renor, in other words, they have reproduced themselves and their family. Both Pastor Myles, with Pastor Myles Jr. and Teresa the daughter, Pastor Sheena and Pastor Richard, with Renor and Talia. Let's uplift the entire families.
This is a sad day in the life of Bahamians and of course citizens of the world, because you know, Dr. Myles and of course his wife and the other persons who perished in this unfortunate incident, you know, they were known worldwide, and they were part of us, and we are so happy to have had them a part of us, Bahamians, and to see how they would have lost their lives is really, you know, nothing short of well, breathtaking for all of us. And so the organization is happy to be a part of this process, to assist the family and of course the other members of the BFM family to a smooth transition.
Seymour says he is pleased to report that the police portion of the investigation is nearing completion and the files will be delivered to Her Majesty's coroner in a matter of days. However, they are still awaiting information on the exact cause of the crash.
The exact cause of the crash has not been determined at this time. Remember, there are several other aspects of the investigation that's going on at the moment, and they're being done by the National Transportation Service Board, NTSB, FAA, and of course the Civil Aviation Authority. Okay, they will determine, based on their findings, based on their investigation, what the probable cause or what the exact cause of the crash is. And so we await those reports.
It was a sad homecoming as the disbelief surrounding last Sunday's plane crash hit home with a strong, sobering dose of reality. The gold-draped coffin of Dr. Myles Monroe emerged from a Sky Bahamas flight which also transported his wife Ruth and confidant Dr. Richard Pinder. A Flamingo Air flight transported the bodies of the two pilots. With a gentle touch and a slow march, pallbearers escorted Dr. Myles Monroe's hearse as 4 others followed. It was the first opportunity to posthumously honor Pastor Myles and Ruth Monroe, Pastor Richard Pinder, and Captain Stanley and Franken Cooper. Seated inside Bahamas Air's hangar at the Lynden Pindling International Airport, there were quiet tears among the families and a presence which spoke loudly to the love and respect the group commanded. The first memorial allowed some of the early tributes.
9 souls, including Dr. Monroe, who was 60, his wife Ruth Ann, and Dr. Richard Pinder, have been lost due to the Learjet they were flying on going down at the shipyard sometime after 5 this afternoon. The Department of Civil Aviation has confirmed that the jet, which departed Lynden Pindling International Airport for Grand Bahama International Airport at 4:07 p.m. with 9 people on board, crashed while making an approach for landing at Grand Bahama International Airport at 5:10 p.m. Reports are that the aircraft was flying low to avoid inclement weather and crashed into a structure at the shipyard. Eyewitnesses say the plane exploded on impact and crashed into the yard. At last report, we were told that there were no survivors. Civil Aviation said the Grand Bahama Airport Company Crash Fire Rescue Department responded to the incident, and the police and Bahamas Air Sea Rescue were on scene. The department said a full-scale investigation will commence tomorrow morning at daylight, which will include the Department of Civil Aviation Aircraft Accident Investigation Prevention Unit. Dr. Monroe was on his way to a leadership conference in Grand Bahama. He said the leadership conference was to highlight the leadership dilemma he says the country is facing as older leaders are not passing the baton. Monroe said right now young emerging leaders are having difficulty with those who have been in the system for a while.
Politically speaking, I think that we are in a leadership dilemma. We are at the point in history where transition is taking place. And no one is deciding that. Life is deciding that. Most of the older leaders who were part of our historical journey fading into the sunset. The realities are effective leaders always prepare their replacements. They mentor and they create succession.
Monroe said he had a dream once about the funeral of a celebrated track and field athlete. In the dream, he said the athlete was lying in his coffin in his running uniform, clutching a baton. As mourners filed past, Monroe said he realized what the dream was about when he woke up.
It was about people dying with the baton. You know, instead of passing it on. And I was thinking, the young person who's supposed to lead next have to go to that casket, pry the baton out of the dead man's hand just to take it to the next leg. This may be what we're struggling with here. People would rather die with the position than pass it on. And so you find the young people having to fight to get it. Great leaders pass it on before they die, and they live to see the other runner run. Hopefully we'll get there in the Bahamas.
While members of Bahamas Faith Ministries reacting tonight to Monroe's tragic death, Vonnie Toot has the story.
An emotional scene here at Bahamas Faith Ministries International, where hundreds of church members gathered after receiving reports that their president, Dr. Myles Monroe, may have died in a plane crash in Grand Bahama. Well, as they arrived here, they got the heartbreaking confirmation that Dr. Monroe, his wife Ruth Ann, their pastor Richard Pinder, 2 pilots, a foreigner, and others did in fact die in that plane crash in the Grand Bahama shipyard. As tears streamed down their faces, devastated members of Bahamas Faith Ministries International clung to each other for support as news spread of Monroe's tragic death. Church members trickled into the Diplomat Center at first, demanding answers. Then came the news everyone dreaded from Pastor Dave Burrows.
We unfortunately confirm that there was a plane crash in Freeport, Grand Bahama this afternoon. The aircraft involved belonged to Dr. Myles Monroe, founder, president, and senior pastor of Bahamas Faith Ministries International, who was on board at the time, along with his wife Ruth Ann and Dr. Richard Pinder, senior vice president and pastor of Bahamas Faith Ministries. There were additional passengers and 2 pilots on board. We are not able to release further information on the other passengers pending notification of kin. This is the current extent of information we have at this time, and we are preparing a further update and press release within the next few hours once we have received additional information. We are currently in contact with all of the relevant government agencies and aviation authorities in an effort to determine the events leading to this unfortunate tragedy. We thank all Bahamians and those who have called from the international community for your prayers and expressions of comfort.
Burrows explained while Dr. Monroe and his wife were in Grand Bahama.
The reason for the trip was the conference in Freeport that was scheduled to begin tomorrow. And there were other members and employees of the church and other on a foreign visitor.
Burrows, who spoke with reporters following an emergency board meeting at BFM tonight, told reporters that both of Monroe's children are aware and they visited that crash site in Grand Bahama. He says Monroe would want them to move on.
We are all trying to console each other at this point in time because it's a terrible shock and it's very difficult for everybody. So we are just calling on the faith that we have.
Burrows added that Monroe was the foundation of BFM and everyone is in shock.
Dr. Monroe is our foundation. He's the visionary. He is the the driving force behind everything that we've done, and he's been the inspiration for all of the people here in this boardroom and for people worldwide. We've already received calls from all over the world. I mean, many people, government officials, and so on. And so we really have to just get together as a church and regroup and determine where we go from here.
Please welcome to the podium, Myles Monroe, Jr.
Good afternoon. It's good to see so many familiar faces. I'm glad everyone came. I hope the conference has been a blessing to everyone, in spite of, obviously. I just have a statement that I want to read on behalf of myself and my family. I would like to take this time to address all of you here and everyone around the world that has shown their support and expressed their condolences during this difficult time. I want you all to know that in spite of the recent tragedy that claimed the lives of my parents, Dr. Myles and Ruth Monroe, my uncle, Dr. Richard Pinder, our chief pilot, Captain Stanley Thurston, our first officer, Furkan Cooper, our youth pastors, Lavard and Riddell Parks, their son, Johannan Parks, and their unborn child, and our dear friend, Diego Santiago. We all have comfort in knowing that God is in control. I know there are many questions as to how or why something like this would be allowed to happen to such great individuals. But still, God is in control. The past few days have been the most difficult times for my sister and I, my family, and all of those affected by this loss. We are all saddened by this tragic event, but we are comforted and encouraged by the outpouring of love and support we've received from everyone around the country and from those around the world at large. I want to thank everyone that has called, that has emailed, that has messaged, or that has just gave words of encouragement. We are truly grateful. I would like to make it known that although we are grieving our losses and are deeply saddened by this tragic event, we have never been, nor will we ever feel, hopeless. There is no question in our hearts that the spirits of the 9 persons whose lives were taken are now resting with our Heavenly Father. We rejoice, for we know that they are in a better place, watching over all of us and rejoicing amongst the heavenly angels. We will not allow death to claim any victory. But we celebrate the life and the legacy of each individual. This tragedy does not mark the end of life, the end of a vision, the end of a journey, nor the end of a purpose, but it marks the new beginning of an era. An era of a new generation that will carry on the vision and the legacy of my father and my mother, and of each individual whose life was lost so unexpectedly. So let's not mourn. Let's not mourn their deaths, but let's celebrate their lives and find joy in knowing that although God may not explain himself, he will reveal himself. In the words of my father, the greatest tragedy in life is not death, but it's a life without a purpose. We know there is a greater purpose in all of this, and we are now the vessels for this new vision and this new legacy to be carried on. So once again, on behalf of myself, my sister, my aunt, my cousins, my family, and on behalf of all of those that's lost a loved one this weekend, we say thank you for your kind words, your kind messages, your phone calls. We're grateful. We aren't hopeless. You guys have to understand, we are not hopeless. We aren't mourning their death, but we celebrate their life. Thank you.
God's original plan
Божий изначальный план
was simple.
был очень простым.
Write it down.
Запишите это.
Number 1.
Первое.
To extend his heavenly kingdom on earth through man.
Установить небесное царство на земле через человека.
Number 2.
Второе.
His original purpose.
Его изначальное предназначение и цель.
To establish a family of sons, not servants.
Состояла в том, чтобы создать семью, состоящую из сыновей, а не из рабов.
Please write this down.
Запишите, пожалуйста, это. создать себе семью, состоящую из сыновей, а не из рабов.
Religion wants man to be a servant.
Религия хочет сделать из людей рабов.
God hates religion.
Бог ненавидит религию.
Number 3.
Третье.
The original plan of God.
Изначальный план Божий.
Establish a kingdom of sons, not subjects.
Стоял в том, чтобы утвердить царство сыновей, а не подчиненных. Утвердить царство сыновей, а не подчиненных. Утвердить царство сыновей, а не подчиненных.
Number 4.
И четвертое.
God's original plan for man.
Божий изначальный план для человека.
Number 4.
Четвертое.
To establish a commonwealth of citizens, not Christians.
Утвердить царство граждан, но не христиан.
Еще раз.
Утвердить царство граждан, а не христиан.
Еще раз, Агусто.
Утвердить царство граждан, а не христиан.
Citizens, not Christians.
Граждане, а не христиане.
I repeat.
Я повторю.
This is very important.
Это очень важно.
God's original plan.
Божий изначальный план
was to establish a commonwealth of citizens, not Christians.
Состоял в том, чтобы утвердить царство граждан, состоящих из граждан, а не из христиан.
We are now in a moment where the old weapons that kept the Bahamas don't work no more. I speak prophetically that we are now about to enter in the next few days a period of what I call the last moment. From July 2014 to July 2015, there shall be tremendous change in 1 year. You watch. There shall be many people dying. I'm telling you, many will be sick. Many will be removed in ways we can't explain. Why? Because God got to make sure that the place is clear. I speak prophetically. You watch my word in the next 12 months from the day of July 10th to 14. There shall be magnificent changes which no one can control. And there shall emerge in the next 12 months leaders you never saw before. There shall be young women and men emerging whose ideas will blow your mind, and they cannot wear the old armor anymore. They shall walk with a new mentality. They shall have a spirit upon them. That shall be the Spirit of God, and they shall take us into the next Bahamas. I speak to you with my whole heart that God is saying the time for a new leadership has been birthed. It has arrived.